Hello, I'm CJ Werleman, and in this episode we explain why Palestinians and the rest of the world can't coexist with the State of Israel. But first, please remember to like and subscribe to our show. Now let's get into it. Take a moment to enjoy these all too rare photographs of Palestine during the early 20th century. You see Muslims, Christians and Jews navigating the old city's narrow lanes in the 1920s. A baker selling his wares to customers of all religious faiths in the 1900s, and a mother preparing a meal for her children in the 1910s. Every one of these photos tells a remarkable story. A story about life in Palestine before the mass, unlawful migration of Zionist Jews from Europe during the 1920s and 1940s, which brought an abrupt end to centuries of peaceful coexistence between Muslims, Christians and Jews. It's critically important that everyone knows this historical truth about Palestine, because Israel allocates a great deal of energy and resources to rewriting the past and evangelizing its fabricated history. For this reason, journalists have a responsibility to amplify and elevate Israeli historians who stick hard to the facts and reject Zionist propaganda. Take Menachem Klein for example. He's a senior lecturer at Bar Ilan University in Tel Aviv, and author of this book, which narrates the peaceful and happy coexistence between Arabs and Jews during the 1800s and early 20th century. He said that Muslims cooperated respectfully with their Jewish neighbors, helping them pump water before the Sabbath, spending time together during religious festivals and ceremonies, and in some instances pursuing interfaith relationships and marriages. Some Muslim parents even sent their children to Jewish schools to learn more about the Hebrew language and Judaism.
By the end of the 19th century, Palestine has 500,000 inhabitants, of whom 30,000 live in Jerusalem. A veiled woman, a Sunni Muslim, one of the majority. An Orthodox Jew. He too turns away from the camera. Here we have an Armenian Pope. Each of the Christian denominations has its church here in the Holy City. The holy places of the three religions are scattered across a few hundred square meters.
But this serenity and stability, this bona fide Palestinian utopia, was smashed to pieces by the first wave of European migrants in the 1920s. Mostly because these new arrivals had absolutely zero interest in living side by side the indigenous population, owing largely to the fact that racist colonial tropes misled Europeans into believing they are superior to Arabs. In other words, European Jewish migrants wanted Palestine, but without Palestinians. So they Judaized the Arab country by transforming the land into a homeland for European Jews, and then fulfilled this objective by forming themselves into Zionist militia groups, the Irgun, and Stern Gang. We are talking about an underground army tasked with the total destruction and annihilation of anything that resembles or reflects Palestinian, Arab or Islamic life in the Holy Lands. They renamed villages, towns and cities to Hebrew names, after liquidating more than 500 Palestinian villages, towns and cities during the 1948 Nakba, a genocidal campaign to make way for Jews-only enclaves and territories. The genocide you're witnessing in Gaza today is a continuation of the ethnic cleansing that started in the 1930s and 1940s.
Get the out of the country. This is Jewish country only. We don't need Muslims here.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
Jewish terrorists not only drove a wedge between indigenous Arabs and indigenous Jews, but also terrorized and subjugated the entire Palestinian population, while keeping the entire Middle East in a constant state of chaos, instability and war. If Israel wasn't invented in 1948, then more than 1 million lives would have been spared during the 1948 genocide and subsequent wars against Arab states in 1948, 1967 and 1973. And were it not for Israel, then the United States wouldn't have invaded and occupied Iraq, remembering it was Israel that ultimately convinced the Bush administration to topple Saddam Hussein. A war that spawned a series of interconnected civil wars and the terror group ISIL. Were it not for Israel, then 7 million Palestinian refugees would be afforded their legal right to return to their homes in occupied Palestine. Instead, they languish in squalid and impoverished camps throughout the Middle East. This is Palestine before Zionism arrived in the 1920s. This was a Palestine before Israel was created in 1948. It was clean, beautiful, and most of all, peaceful. This rare, coloured footage from the 1930s shows Muslims, Jews, and Christians freely intermingling in and around the walls of the old city. Your attention should be drawn to the total absence of heavily armed soldiers and military installations. This was an era of peace and tranquility, not an era of occupation, colonization, and dispossession. And sadly, the same can be said about Palestine today, a land scarred and scorched by the Zionist army and its tangled labyrinth of steel and concrete walls and barricades, all of which is meant to keep Palestinians separated, controlled, and in a constant state of terror. This is Gaza before Zionism arrived in the Middle East. This is Gaza today, a bombed-out barren wasteland, courtesy of Zionist warplanes and missiles. This before and after footage shines a light on the destruction and devastation that has taken place during the past 18 months. It's unbearable to watch. But apparently not for this Israeli soldier, who performs his religious rituals in front of Gaza City, which has been completely destroyed by the Israeli occupation forces. This is not Judaism, this is the fascist ideology of Zionism. This is how Zionists normalize genocide, normalize ethnic cleansing, and normalize dispossession and displacement. And here's what a Jewish American orthopedic surgeon had to say after returning from Gaza.
That children in Gaza are being shot by snipers.
Definitively. I have 2 children that I have photographs of that were shot so perfectly in the chest I couldn't put my stethoscope over their heart more accurately, and directly on the side of the head in the same child. No toddler gets shot twice by mistake by the world's best sniper. And they're dead center shots. All of the disasters I've seen combined, 40 mission trips, 30 years, ground zero, earthquakes, all of that combined doesn't equal the level of carnage that I saw against civilians in just my first week in Gaza.
Israel exists outside of democratic values, international law, human rights law, and basic human decency, which means that Western support for Israel not only encourages genocide, occupation, and apartheid in Palestine, but also authoritarian and fascist movements across the world. Europe couldn't coexist with the Nazis, and the Middle East can't coexist with Zionists. Certainly not while Israeli forces are murdering Palestinian civilians at an average rate of 100 people per day, constituting a Holocaust level of mass extermination.
Remember, that is probably the highest kill rate of any military killing anybody since the Rwandan genocide of 1994. 27,000 people, civilians, killed in 4.5 months is an astonishing thing.
Israel has killed more children in the past 5 months than the total number of children killed in all wars during the past 4 years. Gaza now holds the world record for being home to the most child orphans and child amputees. Imagine this was your daughter. What would you do? Needless to say, these children face a lifetime of suffering and hardship, many of whom no longer have parents, siblings, or grandparents. Remembering that Israel has not only killed 1,200 entire families, but also has left another 3,400 families with only one surviving member. This is the equivalent of Auschwitz. This is the equivalent of the Warsaw Ghetto. And when it comes to killing innocent children, Zionists act and sound a whole lot like actual Nazis.
In Gaza.
Wow.
How do you feel?
It's very hard to be happy about it, but in a way, it makes me much more, I feel more secure. After 45,000 terrorists died, I don't believe in innocent people in Gaza. As general.
Children?
But even children, you know, you don't see shows, you don't speak to the children. It doesn't matter, children. They get it since they're babies. They get it.
Barely 1 hour away from this genocide, and sharing the same stretch of coastline, Israelis play volleyball, smoke shisha, and drink beer on the beach. callously indifferent to the slaughter taking place within earshot. They don't care about the indigenous population of Palestine for the simple reason European squatters don't belong in Palestine. Even the land rejects them. And this is what happens when you ask Israelis in Tel Aviv where it is they're really from.
Has anyone ever asked you, where are you from?
I'm from New York.
New York.
Houston, Texas.
LA.
Australia. Canada.
Yerushalayim.
And then when you tell them where you grew up, they lean in and ask you, where are you really from?
America for a long time, but Polish before that.
Morocco. German and some Poland.
And Ethiopia. Scotland.
Zionism has only brought racism, hatred and violence to the Middle East. But the good news is a record number of European and American Jews are now turning their back on Israel. You not only have former Zionists admitting Zionism is a mistake, but also famous Hollywood Jews openly comparing Israelis to Nazis.
You can't be more evil than what they're doing. They are doing evil that is just as great as what the Nazis did, and in some ways it's worse because they kind of boast about it.
Right.
Hitler had the decency to try to keep it secret.
Right.
For some reason, Hitler didn't want people to know he was doing these things to the Jews. It was a secret. The Israelis are almost proud of it and don't keep it a secret, and it's demonically evil.
A free Palestine means a Palestine without Zionist settlers. A free Palestine means the total dismantlement of the Zionist occupation. Your activism, your humanity, and your boycott of Israeli products is helping achieve that very goal. And I truly believe that with your help, we can make Palestine 1917 again. But that's all the time we have for today. Please remember to subscribe to this channel, and we kindly ask that you please support our effort to expose and confront injustices in the Muslim world by becoming a member of this show at patreon.com/CJWerleman. We can't produce, sustain, and grow this show without your help, and we offer exclusive benefits to those who do. But for now, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and stay blessed.